Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Dawson. Welcome to Leader Talk. This show is proudly brought to you by Brainiact. Each week we are meeting with incredible leaders from around the world to discuss all things leadership and business insights. Each person coming on this talk show has given up their valuable time for one very clear purpose: to give back to small and medium business owners. Now, have you ever sat down to think about the end point of your business? Will you sell it one day? Have you even thought about the selling process, what it may look like, or are you just winging it? Today, Gus and I are fortunate to chat to our guest speaker, Roger Jowett. Roger was formerly the CEO of Motion Australia, a subsidiary of Genuine Parts Company, a US automotive and industrial distribution giant with revenues in excess of 20 billion USD. Roger is here today to share his extensive experience in buying and selling businesses and give us some advice on what we can do to get our businesses ready for sale. Welcome to the show, Roger.
Thanks, Natalie. Morning, Natalie, Gus. Nice to be here.
Hello, Roger. Thank you for donating your valuable time. We, the community of Leader Talk, so appreciate to be able to learn and to get your insight.
Good. Thank you.
We do have an exciting show. And Roger, before we begin, like with all our guests, we have two fun questions to ask you. Now, we know, Gus and I know you're a massive football fan. So our first question is, Ronaldo or Messi?
Oh, gosh, definitely Messi.
Okay.
Why? Why?
Because I'm a Manchester City fan, so I am not a Manchester United fan. And I think he's probably a nicer guy, actually. That's just and he's a superb footballer. Yeah. And what he did at the World Cup was very impressive. I thought it was his cup. Yeah.
Definitely was. And what is your favorite hobby?
Oh, I'm a very avid cyclist. So I churn out about over 300 kilometers a week, 5 times or so. So this is my social life. Early in the morning, fits in with family stuff. Up at 5:36, couple of hours on the bike. You go to different places, keep fit. So yeah, that's my thing. And I ride my bike more than I drive my car. So there you go.
We can tell, Roger. We can tell you're a very healthy man. And sometimes I ask myself, we many people, and that could be probably including me. We make so much excuses that we have no time, and then we talk to successful business person, and you started by saying that I start my day by keeping healthy, and it's always a question of how do you find that internal energy?
It's fixing rules. Business is tough, and leading a business, even as a small one or a big one, puts a lot of demands on you. A lot of sacrifices are made, but I've, with agreement with my beautiful wife, always been able to free up that time to look after myself. You've got to stay fit and healthy. And one thing about doing some sport in the mornings is it actually does energize you. And as you get older, you do your best, most creative work in the morning. You kind of fade away after lunchtime. Endorphins and whatever levels it is in your brain sort of fade away. So it's really good to be energized at the beginning of the day. Do your boring emails in the afternoon, I say. Hard to do. Most people go to their desk or their job and do the emails first up. It's the wrong thing to do.
And Roger, would your tip be, because, we speak to small and medium business owners all the time, it is really hard to find time for yourself and fitness. Is it really just sticking to your guns and just saying, this is what I'm doing. I'm not having meetings before 8 o'clock because this is me time on a Monday or a Thursday or whatever it's going to be?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it became the social life as well. So really good mates, ride, coffee. They become sort of business associates as well. So think of it as a really positive thing. You're hanging out with some mates, you're doing things together, and there might be some business leads that come from it. It's probably good not to just do a solo kind of sport in that regard. That helps. Anyway, wonderful. Australia's best in the morning. The light still blows me away. I've been here 19 years, and the scintillating light in the morning, I just go, wow. Just fantastic. So get out there and enjoy.
Are you saying to me that I should stop my skipping in the morning? doing my skip in a while.
No, it's better than nothing, Gus. But other things to explore.
Roger, I gave a really, really brief intro to who Roger was at the beginning of this, but it is by no means an exhaustive one on who you really are. So would you mind sharing with our listeners before we go into the questions?
Yeah, sure.
Why you're here? If you could let us know.
I'm a simple lad from Manchester, kind of Mr. Average at school, but always very hardworking. Went to what's called Polytechnic, which was like second division universities, did languages. I was encouraged to do what I enjoyed. I did French and Italian. Met my wife at uni there, and then got into business. I'll just leap ahead because the languages that I developed, pretty fluent in French and Italian, were married up with the business skills about 10 years later when I got a posting to go and work in Paris and worked across Europe. Ended up running businesses in Belgium and Holland, and then got asked to come to Australia for 2 years in 2003, and still here. And through all that journey, I've been pretty much involved in acquisitions from my mid-20s, part of a team, involved in buying a business. I've been sold twice in the groups that I was with. I've had the good fortune of working in private equity and owning shares in businesses, and specifically worked on an exit process to sell them. So been more on the buy side, about 50 deals in my career across different countries and different sectors. 5 of them were sale of businesses, and the balance were buying businesses from $500,000 turnover, $1 million turnover, 5, 10, 20, 50 million turnover. So I've kind of gotten better at understanding the sell side because there's a bit of a phrase, certainly in the corporate world, you're only as good as your last deal. You know, if you choose to buy a business and it goes horribly wrong, that's not good. So you get pretty thorough at finding the right business, the right fit to bring into your usually bigger business to make greater things happen. Yeah. So industrial services, business to business, fire protection, air conditioning, industrial distribution. I love seeing things being made or built. That's me.
So can we assume, Roger, throughout this next 1 hour, as you're very experienced in, 50 times buying business, surely you see the good, the bad, the common mistakes of people that want to sell the business, the common mistakes or the common strength equally of how business owners react before and after the sale.
Yeah. So what I would say is that there is pretty much always a trigger event for a small business to put itself up for sale. The vast majority have not necessarily had a strategic plan to sell the business in 5-10 years. And it is something we'll maybe touch back upon because there is value in actually having a plan. And the more you can share that with your team and your colleagues, the more sort of true it becomes when that process embarks. But the vast majority of businesses end up being for sale in this space when something's happened, and it's not always a sort of positive list of reasons. It could be a death of a loved one, it could be illness, it could be simply too tired and kind of knackered and can't carry on. So those are not great reasons to be selling the business, and I think it's valuable to discuss just understanding what could be done a little bit differently to make that journey an easier one, a more enjoyable one, and most importantly, probably creating more value when it's had a little bit of structure and process around the intention to one day sell the business. So yeah, it's and from a buyer side, normally they want to buy a good business. They're not after buying a troubled business that's going through choppy waters. It's a lot safer to buy a good business and work out what you can bring to them. And as long as the buyer is not super arrogant, actually understand and learn what a smaller business typically can bring to them. I have seen on several occasions the business I've been in, buying a smaller business, and they're doing better things on procurement. And you think, well, we're big and we're the best. No, not always the case. So there's a lot of greatness out there in small businesses. And so from a seller's perspective, you've got to really sharpen those things and be proud and leverage the things that's really good about your business, because don't assume the buyer's better in all regards. Not always the case by a long shot.
And what happened, Roger, if, for example, I've been owning this business for quite some time. This is my vision, my dream. I started very small, and now it started to get a good size that helped me and my family. Every time I hear I want to sell a business, I'm allergic to it. But yet you just said before, remember, there's a trigger events that can either pull or push you to sell.
Yep.
Do you think the habits of preparing your business to sell, even though you're not selling, it's a good practice anyway?
Absolutely. It is. Listen, if you're selling your house, you're probably going to get it super clean, looking great, declutter it, so that when people come in, it looks wow. I mean, it's pretty good to be living in that environment all the time rather than a messy house, right? So I think when we've all done that, we think, well, doesn't the house always look like this? This is a wonderful place to live. So, building the disciplines of the business being, I call it sort of clean and neat and tidy. And I don't just mean the physical, I mean in the processes and the paperwork and customers paying on time, and having growth things happening, ideas that become plans. Those are just good things to have in any business anyway, to help it keep ticking up, because most people want their business to grow.
But we are busy. We are busy, Roger. Every morning I come to the business, starting at 4 a.m., buying all the things that I need to have to sell this. I own a cafe, and where do we start, Roger? So
busy is a dangerous word. Busy is a dangerous word, and if people are using it all the time, they kind of need to stand back and analyze it, because they're probably working on some things that they can let go, so they can focus on the things that are genuinely more important. I mean, that's a question of prioritizing time and understanding which things have a positive impact on the business and which things can be parked or maybe delegated to a more junior member of staff if you're teaching them to do those, less important tasks, as it were. So, freeing up time. I mean, something I've learned, and I probably only hit my straps in terms of creating quality time to do deep thinking, I would say 7 or 8 years ago. So that's the back end of my career. And it was through some relentless mentoring from a chairman. He said, Roger, you are too busy. You have got to create time so that when I want to spend a couple of hours with you tomorrow, that's cool. In fact, you need to create a day a week when you can be thinking about the business. Everybody else is settled and working hard. You're the boss. So that ability to create time is a hard one. I wasn't very good at it. I was sort of strong-armed into learning about it, practicing it, and then starting to enjoy it and do more of it. And, if we come back to selling a business, Gus, boy, oh boy, do you need to create a bit of time to handle 2 jobs at the same time.
And Roger, when we talk about selling a business, like many of the listeners will have never actually sold a business. They have a business, they're in the business, they're working on it, 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Can you talk us through this process? So when we talk about selling a business, we know it takes a lot of time. We've already established that, but what does it actually involve? What does a selling process look like? So when we talk about this, we actually can visualize what it would look like to potentially sell, whether, we've got a plumbing company or a hairdressing salon or a cake shop, anything like that. So we can kind of see what, I know there's not one size fits all, but just a kind of generic overview.
So let me just break it down really. There's a selling the business. I want to sell the business for whatever reason. I'm going to sell the business. That's what I'd call you pushing. You're pushing your business out into the market. And then there's a business that's been doing good things, been recognized, and people have probably been knocking on the door, and you might have pushed them away. And that's more of a pull thing. I mean, they marry up. If you're pushing your business into the market saying it's for sale, you have to create some interest. So you create a teaser, like a one-pager. And then you've got to work out how to get it to interested parties. Pretty hard. That's where I would use a small business advisor, broker, who'll sit down with you and say, okay, you want to sell your hair salon. Let's just work out, what's great about your salon and just some highlight stuff. Leave it to me. I'll start contacting some other people. It's important to remain anonymous at that stage, usually, because there's not a lot of benefit in the world knowing that you're thinking of selling your business. Yeah, so that's one of the tricky things in those early stages. So anyway, you're working out who might want to buy it. You might have some interested people. You then tend to sign what's called an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. So you share more information and you start to work out, I'll offer you $1 million, not enough, 1.1, let's move, let's get on the dance floor. On the pull side, when you've been solicited, again, you get to that non-disclosure arrangement position and you're looking for an offer. When the offer comes in and you're happy with the 1.1 million, you move into what's called like a term sheet or a heads of agreement. And it's basically a document that says, I intend to sell and you intend to buy. Okay, and we're committed. And often there can be exclusivity in there. I won't try and sell the business to anybody else whilst we're working on trying to make this deal come off, and you'll stick to the process that we've agreed. And then you get into the sort of what can be pretty laborious due diligence. And it does depend very much on size of business and size of buyer. So due diligence is where the buyer has a look at the business. They lift the bonnet. They're looking at the financials. They're looking at the premises. They're looking at the customer lists. They're looking at the stock. They're looking at kind of anything they want to within the business. They probably don't have access to the people face to face, but they do have access to the people information on file. Roger's been in the business 8 years. This is his job. He does a good job. This is what he earns. And these are his strengths. So something on file about people is usually good practice to have. When you get through due diligence and you're coming to concluding the deal, there's a sale and purchase agreement signed up. That's usually done by lawyers. It's not something you can do yourself, like you wouldn't try and sell your house on your own. So there's lawyers from either party involved. And the sale and purchase agreement can be for the sale of the shares or for the sale of the assets. Assets includes customers and the relationships. Shares has the liability of any claims against the business historically. So it can go either way. The seller often has to sign what's called reps and warranties, representations and warranties. So if I buy your business tomorrow and there's a product recall next week and I'm feeling like this is a disaster, you're still responsible for certain agreed things. If there's a massive claim from an angry customer who's refusing to pay, blah, 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 again, for a 12-month period, often there's a reps and warranties. So if I'm spending 1.1 million on buying your business, you're probably putting 10% into what's called escrow, which is held by the lawyers until typically a 12-month period. That money's released to the seller based on both parties being happy. And that usually happens. I mean, I've bought a business once. There was a product recall, and the seller worked very hard with us to help solve the problems. Happy customers. They ended up paying for $30,000 of import costs of a replacement product, whatever. It was amicable. You don't want to fight through those processes. So it can be it can seem laborious and there's a bit of paperwork, but that's a typical process.
And Roger, obviously, if you engage with advisor when you want to sell or when you are getting approached, uh, the advisors or this process, as you said before, involve a lot of a lot of admins, a lot of data analysis, a lot of
Yeah.
financial checks. Now, as a small business, medium business, that could be a pain point for us.
Yep, absolutely.
We not, let alone creating a tidy house. We don't even have a tidy bedroom. I mean, it's
Well,
so
yeah. I think the value of an advisor, and I don't think people need to get spooked by this costing a huge amount of money. The value of an advisor is they're a nice buffer in between buyer and seller. So where I've seen the best transactions is where that advisor is the sort of single go-to person. Hey, we want to just look at the numbers regarding this. Leave it with me. They go to the seller, they help them, they gather the information, they put a bow on it, and they give it to the buyer, rather than necessarily me being straight on the phone to the seller and us kind of having a not a positive conversation, maybe one that's a little bit fractious. So an advisor is a nice little buffer in between. And also, deals they're rarely just super smooth and linear trajectory. There are bumps, there are twists and turns, there are sometimes timeouts, like, doesn't work for me, speak to you in a couple of weeks.
And what happened if that's, sorry to cut you off there, what happened if the buyer potentially is our competitor?
Yep.
Yet we already opening up ourselves. I mean, we are nude. They understand everything about us. And like what you said, it could be see you later in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Good point. Because what happens in those situations is often the information is what's called redacted. So here are my top 10 customers. You're not seeing the name, but you can see the revenue and the margin and how that is good for the business. And and here are my top 6 suppliers, and they're in this category of spend, but you're not seeing the supplier name, and you can see the spend with them and the terms of payment, for example. So that's where an advisor would be very protective of the seller about that competitive risk. And of course, trust builds over time, like any process or relationship. There does come a point where you probably are opening up a bit more, but you're feeling pretty safe that the buyer is serious. They've sunk a bit of money with lawyers and a bit of money with their own time, and they want the deal. Yeah, there's an advisor is savvy to that, body language, behavior, speed of response, and things. So yeah, the best deals I've seen small businesses try and sell without advisors. And you know what? We might have bought it for a bit less than we would have done with an advisor in between, but we'd kind of rather pay a bit more and had a more harmonious and sort of positive process. Seriously, it can be like being in the dentist chair for a bit too long otherwise,
Roger, I like your analogy with, selling a business like selling a house, because when you talk about an advisor, I kind of think of what a real estate agent does. They take out all that work. Like, not many people these days sell property on their own. They engage a real estate agent. They do all that nitty-gritty work. They know the market. They know how much you can get. I recall going through a house not long ago, and there was only 2 people living in this specific house, husband and wife, but there was a 5-bedroom house. The rooms were decked out with like beautiful children. There was a girl's room, a boy's room, a twins room. And I kind of went, but there's only 2 people in here. And they were appealing to a specific market, and they got an interior designer in to fix it all up for them. So when I'm thinking of selling a business, when you say fixing it up, I'm thinking what this couple did to appeal to a family to actually sell this house.
Yeah. But, on that point, Natalie, first impressions are also important.
Absolutely.
I'm 59. I've been in business for 35 years. I can literally walk into a business and you can see and smell and hear this is a good business.
Yeah.
You can hear the vibe, you can see the good housekeeping, you can see the energy in the people, right? So, you know, it's just some basic things which are good for business anyway that could be worked on if you have a plan to sell the business. And if it's a trigger event, you probably want to scramble into a bit of good housekeeping as well. But I'm a big fan of, you know, having a plan to sell the business, and it might be a plan between Mr. and Mrs., you know, chatting on the sofa, but the more that could become part of what the business is gunning for, and that the employees actually understand, you know what, Roger's in his 50s, he's worked oh so hard for 25, 30 years building this business up. He's been open and honest with us that one day this business will probably be for sale. And we're cool with that because, you know, he's probably going to try and find a buyer that isn't a bad buyer and that is going to, you know, take the business to the next level. Being sold is incredibly frightening, just on that point, because there's 1,000 questions if you're an employee and the boss says, I've sold the business, or I'm going to sell the business. And of course, there aren't many answers because the answers come from the hypothetical or we don't know which buyer. So the people side of any business is critical. Yeah. And I know we'll probably talk about comms a little bit later, but it's a very important aspect of holding things together because, you know, when you're selling a business, and it can take a bit of time, 3 months is a fast deal, 6 months is a good deal, can take a bit longer in my experience, and you got to hold it together. And your business is usually trying to do a little bit better each month.
Roger, you said before, good business got vibes. Now,
yeah.
If you suddenly just decided to sell a business, if I'm trying to sell a business, I can create good vibes like giving ice cream every day to the staff from today's stream. Now you ran a business for a long time. You've been in the business, you buy business, you ran a massive company too.
Yeah.
Give us, just come back and checked out from the selling of a business. How do you create good vibes, good energy?
Well, yeah, whilst I've run big businesses, the businesses I've run, you know, several $100 million have actually been an aggregate of small teams. So, you know, 150 locations, teams of 4, 5, 6 people. That's the strength of the business. It's the high-performing small team. So I'm very in tune with, I drive to Wagga. There's 6 people working in Wagga. I understand the leader's a good leader. The people are clear with their roles, responsibilities. The vibes, Gus, are smiling people, you know, supportive people. There's just energy. Yeah, it's not the ice creams, even though there's a cultural thing. And usually that revolves around just things being pretty clear. We know what we're here to do. Yeah. And we enjoy what we do. And we love the customer interaction. Now, if you see grumpy employees and there's an argument going on at the back, that's kind of the opposite. Yeah. So that's the sort of, it's a cultural thing. It comes over time. And it's usually a question of just clarity. You know, we know what we're here for and we know what we're trying to achieve, and we have belief in our ability to do that. And we know we have support. We have support from my boss's boss. We have support from the side. We have support from IT because the system doesn't go down, whatever. They know everyone understands that there's an expectation to perform. So yeah, that's in a small business, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people. If you can create that camaraderie and teamwork and focus, and it's absolutely achievable. You see great small teams. I've seen small businesses where, you know, the owner's been out of the business with, you know, cancer or death of a partner, and the business carries on. And the business carries on because the loyalty is huge. They do not want to let the team down. They're a strong unit, and they say, you know what, we can do this. You know, Roger's got his hour of need. He's out of action. We can do this. They don't want to let down the team. They're not moaning. We don't know what to do. You know, help. I'm out of here. They stick together. Yeah. So that's what I get a buzz out of in business, is seeing the small high performing teams, because they've always kept me in the job. It's nothing else. They're not performing. Yeah.
And Roger, in your experience, buying 50 businesses, which areas that business owners tend to focus? And I'm sure both required efforts, the cultural, the vibes, or the financial and the nut and bolts of running. And then if you can look back all that 50 and then put the thing, do you say, hey, many people don't actually even put investment on this. You need to start tidy this up. Like what's your experience?
There's definitely a bias. There's definitely a bias more to the financial. I mean, again, somebody who set up their own business has probably borrowed money, has possibly got some bank debt. They understand crystal clear the need to pay the wages, because that's a statutory obligation every week, every fortnight, every month. They understand the need to pay suppliers. So they're very attuned with the bank balance. Yeah. And so you find that those skills are usually pretty good. If businesses out there are just lurching from BAS return to BAS return, I mean, I would urge them to start to get a monthly rhythm. There's nothing quite like early warning. It's hands on the wheel. A dashboard for your business is. I couldn't run a business without a daily, weekly, monthly dashboard. I just couldn't do it. I wouldn't sleep at night. So, getting to that key data, and it's not always financial. You could have on there number of customer complaints. Well, we've gone from 5 a month to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. That's a great sign. Yeah, let's keep looking at the zero, because we feel good about the zero. So there is a bias more to the financial. I think it's come through hard necessity of living through times of getting the business up and running and momentum. And then you see businesses that have struggled to get the next level of supervisor, manager up to the required level. The litmus test for me is, and a question I often ask is, can you go away on holiday for 2 weeks on a cruise, no Wi-Fi, and the business will keep doing what you expected it? Can you do that? Or are you frightened to death of getting on that boat, because you'll come back to a long list of challenges that take away all the value of having 2 weeks away from the business? So leaders build up to that position where they can take the very important time out. What that means is they've got leadership, supervisors, 2IC in a good place. They're trusted. They know what's expected. Of course, in an emergency, they'll reach out, but they can do what the business requires on a day-to-day basis. Those businesses tend to be over 10, 12 people. You've broken through this little ceiling and span of control. It's impossible to watch all the work everybody does beyond that 10, 12 people. So if you want to grow and go to the next level, you kind of have to build that level around. But also, we've got a generation of employees who, in my experience, are very hungry for learning and development. They're actually going to leave the company if they're not notching up another certificate thing that they're good at. And again, I would implore small businesses to focus on retaining good talent, good young talent with digital super whiz bang skills. Don't lose that just because you don't understand it, Roger. Recognize that it's a critical piece of the equation and work out ways to retain that talent. And from a selling perspective, showcasing your talent in the business is, I think, one of the most important things, because most businesses, what they're doing, you can find the plumbing parts and the customers are always there. You're the bit in the middle, doing it on time, professionally, courteously, following up, making sure the customer's delighted. So the customer's always there and the products are always available, and there's someone else who'll have a go. So it's those differentiators in that process, which are usually people biased. Obviously, there's systems and smarts as well that help, but it's the smiling, courteous, on time, good to deal with individual who makes the customer come back and spread the word. Yeah. So showcasing your great people when you're selling the business is hard to do, and you can't do that in the panic sale or the trigger type event. It's an iterative process. It's layered up. There's no shortcuts.
And Roger, I want to jump a little bit to the other side. I'm sure in our small and medium business community here, there is some that want to buy a business. So just let's make an analogy here or an example. I want to buy a business. I saw this Roger, the owner of plumbing company. His business great. I can see the way he talk. He got the vibes. He got the vibes. He got the energy. He got everything that I want. And he just came back from 2 weeks holiday. Business seems to be okay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you say, in your experience, many business fail after they purchase. It's not so everything look good. You buy the business. I expand. I got a plumbing business in this city. I want to go to another city. I can't create from scratch. So I buy Roger business there. But then I also remember what you said before, that many can fail.
Yeah.
If I'm a buyer, what is the common things that fail the process after you purchase? So everything good, got the vibe, got the financial, got the product, got Roger. Roger can go holiday. I purchase it 1 year later. What can determine success or not?
Well, it's the customer stickiness. If they start to leave, you're in trouble. And it's usually a function of employees staying with the sold business into the new business. So it comes back to the fit, cultural fit. Have you got the same moral compass? We always do the right thing, and we pounce on customer complaints and solve them quickly. And, we always punch out a quote for the next job within 24 hours, and we promise to blah, blah, blah. So have you got the right sort of cultural fit? And are people nodding when there's a discussion around how we want to do business together? So that clarity of vision is very important. People leave their jobs because they don't like their immediate boss, usually. So you've got to be very sensitive to, Roger might stand up and tell the story about all the great things we're going to do. If it doesn't get owned and delivered by the immediate people working with the new employees, you're in trouble. So, we would do employee engagement surveys after a month, after 3 months, and you're trying to pick out where can we do better? Where is it you're uncomfortable? You'd have team meetings, what I feel like saying, opening up, we can do this together, but you've got to share feedback with us. So, you've got to be very open to hear some things that people don't like, and not go in and say, this is how we're doing things now, because every business does things a little bit differently. Doesn't mean they're better or worse, just differently, probably getting the same outcome. So be very open-minded. The other thing is to stick diligently to the plan. Like, if you said, we're going to give you training on Excel and we're going to give you training on the operating system that we're going to move you to, do it. Give people training in the first week, first month. If they're working on crappy old laptops and you've sort of blurted out in a conversation, you're all going to get new laptops, do it. I mean, you're only as good as your word. Yeah. Don't make promises that cannot be fulfilled. And you know what? It's the small things that matter, and the boss doing a barbecue and getting to know the frontline staff. And again, with good antennae, feeling, they're not very happy. Let's spend some time with the people in Wagga, because they're not the way I would hope they're feeling after 1, 2, 3 months. But certainly, there's a sort of behind the scenes synergies. You're always looking to make some savings. If you're putting A plus B to create big C, how do we save a bit of money on procurement? How do we save a bit of money on fleet costs? How do we save some money on transport costs or insurance costs or banking arrangements? So, working quickly on some of those synergies or savings and plowing that saving into the front end stuff to celebrate some of the successes is a powerful cocktail, because when you can create excitement about the new thing A plus B, you can go to the next level. And that's exciting. I mean, I get excited talking about it. I mean, it's genuinely exciting, yeah.
And how hard for you, or in your experience, I remember at the start of the conversation, you said, just because we buy, that's not necessarily the smaller company. Assume that the company we buy is smaller because we want to purchase, do not have strength. Absolutely. And how do you, so I'm from the buyer side, how do you create even that culture within your company, within your business or organization, to actually say, hey, the plumbing company that owned by Roger really do well on these elements, let's implement it back. Is that something that is hard to do from the buyer perspective?
Well, again, it starts at the top, Gus. If there's arrogance and egos, it's probably harder to do. If there's an element of, we're good at what we do, but we try to remain humble, and let's all agree we can do better. And when we put hand on heart, we have a list of problems, right? Every business has a list of problems, and when you've solved those 10 things, another 10 will pop up. That's a promise. So if we put hand on heart, and as a sort of collective say, let's open up how they can help us. Very powerful chemistry when it's a two-way street. Yeah. Yes. And I think that the really smartest businesses have, and I'm talking about the Microsofts and the whatevers, when they've bought other businesses, they have usually been very successful at promoting people from there to look after part of the bigger thing. And they can, if they find real excellence, they'll take them all the way to the highest possible level, give them more responsibility. And again, those stories of, personal career progression are very important, and they have to be extracted out with tweezers almost. Yeah. Because in a smaller business, people don't walk around saying, you know what, I'm the best person at this and I can take your business in that direction. So a smart leader will maybe find some quiet high achiever over there and whip them away.
Roger, I want to ask about the communications during the sale of a business, because I'm thinking of, we write a lot for small businesses, and a lot of them say that their values are honesty, transparency, trustworthiness. So for a leader to undergo the sale of a business, they obviously need to uphold those values. They don't just disappear and suddenly you don't be honest with your employees. You still need to maintain that. And I'm just thinking, how does that work? You're selling your business. Do you have to be honest and transparent to everyone from that very beginning, or do you bring them along slowly?
Listen, I don't think so. Natalie. Unless you have said, you know what, I'm 55 and my objective is to sell this business by the time I'm 60. And, unless that's been very clear strategically, I think when you're 57, make that mental break to sell the business or whatever, you do need to maintain a level of secrecy for the initial period. That's certainly my experience. That being said, I've always recommended to a small business, you can't do this on your own. You're going to need your financial accountant working with you, and you might need to create an inner circle where you've got your service manager or your whatever, sales manager, whatever. So try and create an inner circle. And there is huge value in that being confidential. And the value is distraction 0 versus distraction 10, right? And you just have to manage through a period of agonizingly keeping it to yourselves until it's got to a point where you're kind of confident that the deal will happen. Even then, when you open up. There's no guarantees. There's no guarantees. I mean, the stock market could crash tomorrow and the CEO is fired next month and all deals are off. I mean, stuff happens, right? So there are never any guarantees in this world. But so, you know, project name, inner circle, sign a little NDA. You might offer a little bonus at the successful sale, you know, another month's wages. There's ways to just build that secrecy, but in a positive sense, Natalie. It's not, we're not being honest with our people type secrecy. It's for the good of the business and the customers. Managing rumors is hard yards. When your competitors are visiting your customers saying those guys are for sale, that's hard yards. Yeah, when you don't know. So you don't want rumors. So yeah, my experience is, and this, you know, most of my career is without all the Facebooking and all the rest of it. So it's probably even harder and harder and harder. But that's what I would sort of recommend. But you've got to recognize employees aren't stupid. When they see Roger's normally in the office on a Monday and a Wednesday and a Friday, and now he's only coming in on a Monday, they kind of know something's happening, right? So sometimes you have to create a bit of camouflage. You know, I'm working with the banks about reorganizing the overdraft, or I'm working with the insurers about getting a better deal. A little white fib, but it's just to buy the time to keep things on the rails and not have any disruption or distractions. So that's, you know, sounds a little bit utopian, but
no, it makes sense.
And from cultural point of view, business culture, our values is to being honest, being transparent. Am I lying by not telling?
You're doing what's right for the business through what is a fairly unique thing. I mean, people usually only sell their business once, Natalie, Gus. There's not many serial entrepreneurs out there. And when you've never done something before, this is why I'd always try and find a little bit of help. You know, you've got to be quite methodical in how to navigate that. And you know, it's double the work. I mean, a lot of the work in the early stages can be out of hours. You know, come and have a look at my hairdressing salon, but I can't let you in till 8 o'clock. You know, when the 4 employees have gone home, come and have a look at my little workshop, you know, at the weekend, because, you know, we're busy and people are working through to 9 p.m. or whatever. So yeah, it's hard, and it can consume you. So having, like anything, having not a shoulder to cry on, but somebody to work with and to help the owner of a business have a sale that is not energizing and great fun, but you know, it's probably the pinnacle of their careers if it's a good outcome at a good price. You know, this is big business. Selling a business, however small, is big business. You know, it's like selling the house. It's a big event. So yeah.
And Roger, I remember when we spoke, you know, previously. You know, Natalie and I spoke previously. So we cover so far how to tidy your house, how to tidy your bedroom, how to make sure the children are also happy to be living in the tidy house. But you said that there's a lot of problem also if you, the one who sell it, haven't prepared yourself to really understand what happened after that happened, because you might need to be part of the journey for the next couple of years, and you might not prepare. So what's your message to all of us that we're preparing for sale and we could be required to be part of the new ship?
Yeah, and that's very hard period. For my experience is that sometimes there are earnouts where if you're hanging on to a high price and the buyer won't pay the high price, they'll pay an amount now and another amount in 2-3 years time. Quite complex. But often there is a period where the seller stays with the business for can be signed up for 12 months. My experience is 6 months is often long enough, particularly if there's a little bit of reorganizing going on and the business starts to change some of its modus operandi. But importantly for the seller, it's having something to go to, Gus. I mean, I've seen this on so many occasions. So hardworking, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, as we've discussed. You don't want to suddenly come off a cliff and kind of have nothing to do. So there's a very important mental journey to get ready for life after the business. And it's very important to, I think, openly discuss that with your loved one. And, what am I going to do? I mean, the partner can be more worried than the busy business seller if the partner's not in the business, because they're so used to this, full-on lifestyle driving the business. So I've seen partners more worried about the outcome than the business seller. And, the ability to have those conversations and, what, I've always wanted to do voluntary work, or I want to go and help a friend do this, or I want to go and renovate the house in the country, or whatever. But having some very clear things state out that you want to do next, because if there's nothing to go to, it can be not a feeling of elation and a great day, a proud day. It can be an empty feeling. Yeah. So getting ready for that is quite important.
Roger, a while back you mentioned that, a good test is, to see if the owner of a business can take 2 weeks off without their business crumbling, which was a really interesting point because, we speak to a lot of business owners and you hear that they've worked crazy hours. They are the business, taking them out of the picture of the business. There actually isn't a business because they are the business.
Well, you've got to get off that mouse wheel would be my
That's
advice.
what I wanted to ask. What advice do you have? Get off the tools?
Well, each situation is unique. I mean, it starts with the true intention to not want to be on that mouse wheel forever.
Yeah.
Because sure as eggs are eggs, you're probably getting tighter and tighter, losing your hair, putting on weight, whatever it is. Your friends and loved ones will be seeing what's going on. And so you need a plan to just break out. And that I don't think that's overly complex. It's most things boil down to having a good team around you, Natalie. And the recognition that, what, I'm not great at everything in business. I'm really good at this, and I need people around me who are good at that and that and that. And I can teach them about my piece of the puzzle, so that they'll be fine when I go away on that well-earned vacation. And it's actually a necessary objective to have. And it can take years to get there, Natalie. I'm not being, trite when I say that. But I always ask that question: who've had the balls and the gumption to set up their own business, because they're brave. Yeah. They're brave. They're putting their own money into something new. It has risk around it. So I'm kind of desperate for them to get to that level where there's some fun and they can have time out, because you come back energized and a nicer person to work with usually.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, having that great team around you, we say, you say you employ people that are better than you. And that is really what you need for your business to keep going, so you can take those 2 weeks off and come back a better leader.
And, it might be discussing that with a team today. How can we get to a position where, I'm off for a couple of weeks in 2024, sharing the problem, because I've promised my loved one that's what we're going to do, and I need to make it happen. So what can we do a bit differently, better? Oh, well, if we bring in another person here, we can find extra business and cover the costs. And, I think it's, I always say, you never have all the answers, right? And, there's lots of great ideas out there. So good objective to have if you're not taking those 2 weeks occasionally.
Definitely brilliant advice, Roger. I'm looking at the time, and Gus, we've actually reached the end of the show. So I'm going to hand it over to Gus to wrap up everything that we've discussed. Good luck, Gus. We've discussed a lot.
And before I wrap up, Roger, once again, thank you for your insights. selling and buying a business, yeah, it's something easy to say, but I think what we realize after listening to you is the preparations, not only on the the admin side, but culture, people, yourself, your mental health, even after you sell, is so important. So thanks for the insight. I hope I do justice here by taking some of the areas that I think can be very beneficial for our audience. For small, medium enterprise thinking of selling their business, I think what we listen from Roger today is we need to understand what buyers look for. You need to prepare your business and yourself. You need to do the homework and the pre-sale activity. Just like when you sell a house, you said, you don't say you want to sell a house before cleaning up at least your bedroom. It's not only about the dollar. You say it so many times. It's not only about the dollar. People that want to buy a house look at the people, the culture within your business. And remember, I like this word. Remember, the trigger events can happen anytime to either pull or push you to sell your business, or even passing your business to your loved ones.
Yep.
Busy is a dangerous word because that trigger events can happen anytime. And when that happens, they don't actually ask your permission whether you're busy or not. So you need to prioritize your time. Good business got the vibe, got the energy. I like that. So after this call, I will go to check my own business that I manage, and I will say to my team, hey, we got the vibe, the energy.
Good on you.
And to create this, you said, we need to make sure that the clarity of visions, that everyone in your business know the why they are doing what they are doing. And I think whether you are big, small, medium, an inability of us, you, whoever want to sell, want to buy, create the clarity of vision and communicate it well, will be the center of the problem in the future. When you tidy up your house, you make sure you tidy the performance and the culture, and equally tidy yourself, because the future ahead after the sale equally hard if you're not preparing yourself. Roger, thank you for your insight. Natalie and I can't say enough thank you. 1 hour goes so quick, and thank you for donating your time.
Thanks, Gus. Thanks, Natalie. I enjoyed talking with you. And speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roger. And I know that I've learned a lot. I know you have, Gus, and I'm sure our audience has as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. For more information on Leader Talk and for some great resources to help your business grow, check out brainiact.com.au. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.